everybody, and welcome back to the 52-week movie challenge. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got an awesome guest. This is the first time I'm doing it, I guess, through Zoom. So please welcome John Ward. How you doing, John?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So as if you guys have been following the first one, I did Deer Hunter, and I did sort of a movie that that I hadn't seen that I've always wanted to see, but just never got around to doing it. And so then for my second one, I had to pick a classic, and I picked All the President's Men. Well, technically, John picked it. John picked it for me. But it was one of the ones I picked out for him to pick. And do you remember which ones I picked out?
I know Citizen. I think there are four. So All the President's Men, Citizen Kane, and I don't remember the other two. I can quickly look them up, but
sorry, I had a
while you're dressing there, here I'll let's see.
What was the one I know I picked too? It was Citizen Kane, All the President's Men, the fucking Dr. Zhivago, I remember, was one.
Okay, right. So then the fourth one, God, we text a lot. I'm still scrolling backwards.
Hold on. You know what? It's an easier way. If you just look up like Dr. Zhivago, and then you can just get right to the right to our messages.
Yeah. I know Dr. Zhivago I didn't want to do because it's just too friggin' long.
Yeah. So, and the Fisher King.
Oh, that's right.
Which I do want to see it, but we might do that for Criterion Watch anyway. So that's, because that's a Criterion film.
It's a great film, and I have a lot to say about it. But I think All the President's Men is very timely, especially with all the stuff that Trump is doing and the Jan 6 committees and all that. This is very, very timely. So that's one of the reasons why I picked it.
Yeah, in fact, we'll get into that. We'll get into a lot of that. So yeah, we're talking about All the President's Men. And so if everybody remembers, I started this because of this thing. It's
yeah, right in front of you. That's the only way of doing it.
It's like the 52. It says everyone's a critic. 52-week movie challenge. Watch, rate, and record information about the movies you watch. Right? So every week you would have a different theme and different movie to do. Right? You're probably not going to do the same movie more than once for this. And that was another reason, because I wanted to watch. I want to be able to say I've watched 52 different movies. This year that I've never seen before, or so. Well, some I will see, and I'll get to that. I think the next episode will be one I've already seen. But the All the President's Men. I'm gonna read what I wrote in this thing. So year was released 1976. Aspect ratios 1.85. 2 hours and 18 minutes long. Genre is drama history. Rated PG, which I was sort of surprised about, when I first saw that it was rated PG. But now that I'm thinking about it, it didn't really have that many bad words in it, I don't think.
Fuck is done a few times, but that's about it. But
nowadays it would be viewed as R, maybe, because of that.
Well, and with the amount of smoking that Dustin Hoffman does, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit too. Let's see. The starring Dustin Hoffman, Robert Redford, Jack Warden. There's a lot of people. We'll probably get into a lot of them.
Great cast.
Fantastic.
Everybody.
Cast. Yeah. Directed by Alan J. Pakula. I think that's how you say his name. Pakula.
Yes. Pakula, yeah.
Produced by John Bornstein, Michael Britton, and Walter Kublitz. I can't say his name right. Written by William Goldman and music by David Shire. Awards received for Oscars: Best Actor, Jason Robards; Best Writing, William Goldman; Best Art Direction, and Best Sound. So, which was like thinking about it, like sound, really? Okay, I mean, it's honestly
A lot of typewriters.
but like other than that, really, was there? I mean,
Well, when you're kind of looking at the scene where's my hand? The TV's like right here, and then over in, I guess I have to use this hand. Over here, they're typing. So
right.
You have the TV in here, and we're hearing everything and listening, and then you got them typing, and then you got the stuff going on in the newsroom. I mean, that was pretty good. I mean, that for sound. I mean, that sounded great.
All right. Okay, so the question was, why did you choose this particular film? I said because I'd never seen it. Literally the only reason I picked it. No other reason. Have you ever seen this movie before? Nope. Would you recommend this film? Why or why not? Yes, I would. It was a very interesting and entertaining look at history. That's what I wrote. So then, which character were you most able to identify with or connect with? I'm gonna ask you, John. Which character do you feel like you were able to connect with the most or identify with?
Probably the publisher, like the editor,
like the boss, Jason Robards' character.
Yeah, because you need facts. You got to watch your wording. You got to have facts. You got to have things to back stuff up. Even today on Facebook and stuff, I tell people, don't use that word. Why did you use that word? Don't type this way, because they could screenshot it and use it against you. So I kind of felt like, he was protecting them, from making the paper look stupid and them look stupid, and pushing them to make sure what they were writing is factual. So I would probably say, Jason Robards' character.
And there's also so they're the facts, but I really liked him because he also, not only did he want like the facts and everything, but he was really ready to just say screw it to everybody. Like if this was what was going on, we're gonna publish it, but only if we can make sure this is what's going on. We have credible people backing us up on that. So yes. I said none in a personal way. I liked Woodward a lot more than Bernstein, though Bernstein had its moments. But I liked Robert Redford's character a little bit more. I felt like I felt like Dustin Hoffman the whole time was being a little bit too crazy, too manic at times and stuff, like the way that his character was portrayed. But also he was drinking 20 cups of coffee.
And he lied too, Redford. I guess we could just, even though this is based on real people, I guess we could just use the actors' names to maybe make it easier. But Redford does tell him, he doesn't want him to do that type of thing. Mm-hmm. That he does make up some facts to, allegedly or whatever it is, or like, oh, well, if this happened, then this must have happened without any sort of proof. So they balanced each other out, I thought. Which is really funny because which one was it? I think it was Bernstein. Yeah, Bernstein was okay. So here's a funny story that I read from William Goldman, right? Who was writing the script. He got sabotaged during the writing of it, right? And he said, like, one of the biggest fears as a writer is like, being taken off a project and not knowing you're about to be taken off, or just not the phone not ringing, kind of thing. But this was even worse. He goes up to Robert Redford's, studio, because Redford's like, hey, we need to talk. Come up, we'll chat about the script. He gets up there and there's Bernstein and Woodward sitting down in a script in the middle of the office, right? And stuff. And it was a script that Bernstein and his then girlfriend, who you may know as writer Nora Ephron,
wrote a whole new draft that wasn't based on what he wrote, but was their own thing, And so he was like, and Robert Redford the whole time was telling him, you should read it. You should read it. Maybe there's some stuff we can use, blah, blah, blah. Right. So he had to tell them like, let me check my lawyer. Funny thing is, apparently, from what I've understood, Bernstein actually rewrote the ending, and stuff. There's things in there that wasn't written by, and he wanted, Robert Redford wanted to have a love interest, which Woodward did not have a love interest, but they wanted one because, Dustin Hoffman's character had one, so it was like competing and stuff and things like that. So he was just like, and Alan J. Pakula apparently is very much like one of those people who would tell you, give me two different versions so I can see it both ways, and do it both ways, because he was indecisive as a director. Little things like that I learned, which I thought was really interesting, but really funny to me, because I'll tell you the line later that I used. I could probably do it right now, because what line or what's your best line or memorable quote, and it's a quote that is said by what's his name, is said by Robert Redford, where he says, if you're gonna do it right. If you're gonna if you're gonna hype it with facts. I don't mind what you did, I mind how you did it. And I felt like when he wrote that scene, I almost feel like he wrote that scene, William Goldman, after he got sabotaged, and he saw like there was the ending was changed that didn't actually happen, and things like that he did not, that was not in the book that he wrote, and stuff. They wanted them to look better than the book, than they did, I guess, or whatever.
Well, the film just kind of ends.
Yeah, we'll get to that too. I was kind of disappointed by that.
I mean, because the film begins 20 days after the first break-in. This is actually the second break-in. Yeah. And
actually, it's I think actually there were other break-ins. There was 3 break-ins before this one.
I don't think there's 3. I think there's 2.
So I'm gonna read this from. This is research that Goldman did about this.
I just watched the documentary on it, and it says there were 2.
Okay. Maybe there was 2, but we're gonna see in a second.
The first one was successful. They broke into Watergate, into the the Democratic headquarters, and they bugged the phones. And that was successful. And they came back 20 days later because one of the phones, the bug was broken. And that was one of the main reasons why they were in there, was to fix the bug. And that's when they got busted by the security guard who called the cops.
Before I went down to Washington to meet with the authors, I began my preliminary research. And one of the things I found out that I hadn't known was the inept quality of so much of when it went on. The famous break-in of June 17th, 1972, the event that triggered everything, was not their first attempt. The burglars had tried several times before, and they kept goofing it up. Once they got trapped and had to hide for the night in an empty room in the complex. Better than that, another attempt failed because the keys that had been made to get them to the Democratic National Headquarters didn't fit. Now they had these keys made in Miami, and after their bungle, some of them had to go back to Miami and have keys made all over again. The reason I suppose I like this stuff was my obsession with the likelihood that everyone assumed they knew everything about Watergate. So I felt whatever I could bring in that was surprising would help us.
Well, so there were attempts, but they didn't pull it off.
Right. There were attempts.
So the documentary talks about the attempt that worked.
You're right.
Where they did bug it. And then the movie starts off on the second attempt, in a way successful because they got into the office and everything. But that's then when the security guard found the tape on the door.
So you're right.
So it
you're
starts
right.
later. So
But
yeah.
I still think it's really funny because if you look at that, those guys, those was it how many guys? 4 guys or whatever, maybe 6.
Five.
Five guys. And that understand I've only seen this movie once so far, so I'm not like, this is brand fucking new to me. So if I forget like how many guys, in the beginning of the fucking movie, just forgive me because I'm, like that kind of thing. But the 5 guys, they, it's funny to know that they actually fucked it up before they actually, attempt and did the actual break-in, or whatever and stuff. And that actually kind of makes sense if you look at the way that it sets up and actually shows the break-in is like the people on the other side watching the stuff and going, hey, there seems to be somebody over there, right? And then the arresting officer, who I think was F. Marie Abraham, correct? So, yeah, I believe, because that's the only arresting officer I can think of, but I do remember somebody coming up there being like, hey, freeze, kind of thing.
Yeah, might be him, because I don't remember him from the rest of the film. So it might have been one of the cops at the beginning. That would make sense too. So
right, and he was a no name at that time. I don't think he had a name. Him playing arresting officer number 1 would be his, one of his starts.
Well, he's in there's the main credits, and then they give you like a whole slot of actors, and then there's like a smaller set of actors, and he's like right in the middle.
Oh, okay. So maybe
he's right there he's like right there with James Karen. And then everybody in that little third section is like, I didn't recognize anybody.
Were you surprised by the ending, and what would you have done differently? First of all, my thing was not really surprised by the ending, not because I knew what happened, but I figured they were gonna get deeper in trouble, like they were getting themselves in deeper trouble by investigating this stuff. Like they were, what would I have done differently? Probably made the ending be more than just ending. I mean, have something a little bit more, but you have to be, it's life, like it sort of showed, life, you know what I mean? Like it like sometimes life doesn't have like this Hollywood ending, like there wasn't.
Well, it's not an action movie. It's not even a thriller. It's about investigating and what it goes into, to bring this to light when it was originally nothing, that people weren't even, really even looking at it. As one of them points out, nobody even heard about Watergate, and now it's become this thing that everything is something gate, when Watergate is just the name of the hotel. But that's, but everybody puts Pizza Gate, or they put something gate in there, because they're saying it's the same as Watergate. So if they didn't look into this and kind of break it, it would just be not even a footnote.
I don't even know why they call it Pizzagate. I don't want to get into that. I don't need to know, but I'm just.
Oh, I could tell you. I know. So that's that. Yeah, it's a QAnon thing, but it's called Pizzagate.
Yeah, it just sounds silly.
It's a whole different thing, but it's QAnon. Yeah.
What elements in the film do you feel helped it become a movie classic? I think everything from the story to the writing to the directing and the performances. Would you agree?
I would agree. And I think that it only holds up better because at that time, Robert Redford was Robert Redford. At that time, Dustin Hoffman was Dustin Hoffman and stuff. Now, when you look at it, from when this film, I think you said it was 1976, when you watch it today, you look at this and go, my God, how many great actors are in this film? And most of them are dead. Mm-hmm. And you're just going, my God, this is just littered with great character actors that you just don't get today. So I think back then it was just looked at as, oh, it's a good movie. Now, I mean, films like this in this, that were made in the 70s are, I think you saw Dog Day Afternoon. And of course, you just watched The Deer Hunter at the time when, when movies come out, it's just like, oh yeah, that's a good film. I liked so-and-so in it. But, when you look at it 20 years later, you're like, my God, what, he's in this movie? Wow.
Yeah.
It's like watching Close Encounter today, and there's Lance Henriksen. He's up on Devil's Tower with the UFO. It's like, Lance Henriksen is in, Close Encounters.
I kept saying, like, because whenever Jason Robards talked, I was like, I just love his like voice,
Yeah.
like literally if he had made a book on tape or something, I would just listen to it, because like he's got a soothing, like he's got a voice that like when I hear it, I know who the fuck he is, like he's got that kind of style. Like honestly, this sounds terrible, but there was a scene with Robert Redford and them off camera talking, and I was like, which one is fucking talking? I can't tell which one is which. And it's because they just don't have, like, to me, Dustin Hoffman or Robert Redford don't have like a voice. But if Jason Robards talked, I'd be like, that's Jason Robards. And I always love that.
Yeah, I guess you could say that Redford was the slow talking guy, while Hoffman was the fast talking guy.
He was hyped up on coffee, and I am drinking coffee
and nicotine apparently.
And nicotine, but he was drinking coffee, and I made sure to do it the way that he likes it, which is just with milk. I drink
it just black, so I'm what I call a true man. I drink it pure. I just drink it black.
I normally have sugar, and actually it does not taste fair. The Colombian coffee I'm drinking right now does not taste good with just milk. Just letting you know.
Well, when people ask me, how do you like your coffee? I say, I take it black, like my women.
Do you really take your women black?
I like all types of women. So that's, but I can, sure.
It's fair, I guess. It's fair to say. Can you name any films or modern films that are of the same elements? And I said, like, a lot of political dramas, I guess. Nixon. I mean, things, just political dramas, I don't know. Wasn't there
from that time period, or just in
modern
general?
like a modern film that's similar, I guess, is what the question was.
I mean, I guess anything that deals with the news. I mean, they had that I'm blanking on the name of it. It actually won for best film, the film about the newspaper that
The Post.
No, not the Post. The one with the priest that's molesting everybody, or priests that are molesting everybody.
No idea.
It has, I think it's Amy Adams is in it. It won for best film. There is a great documentary called Page One.
Was the Post about the Washington Post or New York Post? The one that Spielberg did?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up.
That's interesting, because the Washington Post was what this was about,
Doubt. The movie's called Doubt is the one that I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah. I remember hearing about that movie. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Anything else you'd like to add? And I'm guessing we're going to get into that anyway. But I said I need to buy it on Blu-ray. That's all I said. And own it.
Oh, yeah. No, it is definitely one of those films to own. And I know I may get blasted for this, but I've said this for music too. I think good films ended at the end of the 70s. I think good music ended at the end of the 70s. Granted, there are good and great movies that took place 80s, 90s, 2000s, all of that. But there is a feel to a 70s movie or 70s music. I mean, there's a reason why, Rob Zombie is transfixed, is fascinated with the 70s. And there's a look to the filmmaking. There's the music, the actors, the sets. I mean, if you look at All the President's Men, it's one shot. Like, it's not that MTV shit editing every 2 seconds. This is, the camera is right on two actors and it doesn't move. It just stays there for the entire scene. And you don't get that these days. Everything has to be cut.
You said, when you messaged me and you said there's a scene in McDonald's that could not be done today. And I watched the scene thinking it was some kind of controversial scene or something.
No.
And then I go, okay, so it's literally just on them the whole time where they're just chatting. Is that really
well, that I mean, no, not that. It's just them being in McDonald's. They're in McDonald's. They're just eating. They are, this is about, a president that could possibly get impeached. These days, unless you sneak your cell phone in, McDonald's isn't going to let you film in there. It's just, and as I'm sure, when they made this movie, they're like, okay, well, where do we want to shoot this? They probably could have gone to any place. They probably had some deal set up with McDonald's, but the product placement wasn't obvious. And I just thought it was just weird that, okay, McDonald's, like, wow, you wouldn't get a lot of these companies to let you film in their restaurant.
McDonald's, I don't think was as huge as it is now back then, right? Like in the 70s. Like, I think it was starting to like kick off, I think, right? Didn't they start in the 70s or 60s? It
started pretty early. There was that movie, The Founder.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
Keaton,
when
who talks about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when that took place. So, but
I'm thinking like Restaurant One was, like the 60s, like 50s, 60s. And then in the 70s, it was getting big, but it wasn't gigantic. But it was just, but that's a good example, that scene of just the camera just sitting there. There's no close up of either one of them. We don't see, even though it's product placement, we don't get a close up of their drink. There is something about the way that 70s movies were shot that work so much better. Like the end of the 60s, when you're getting like all those like spy movies and stuff where, that Austin Powers parodies, A Man Called Flint and stuff like that. And then you got the ones in the 70s and they're very straight. And I've done that a couple times with stuff like Axemas or Skull Evil and stuff. And people will go, dude, no, we need to cut. We need to do close-ups and all that. It's like, no, you don't. If you're getting good performances, you don't need to cut. You could do one shot. Spielberg, because it was on a time crunch, did that for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. If you look, it's a lot of that stuff is one shot. It's not cut.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah. So I really dug that. Like I dug, a lot of that. Like the movie itself, I found to be like a lot of fun, and enjoy a lot more enjoyable than even I was expecting it to be, because I thought I would watch this and sort of be bored by the political aspects of the film. But I think the history of it just really entranced me,
Well, it was a fascinating period in time because of the Vietnam War. And of course, all this stuff with, civil, liberties and, just how, Black people and women and stuff were treated, that was the whole time of, were we doomed? Were we going, it was this the end of the world, type of thing with everything that was going on at the time.
So what was what would be your favorite scene in that movie?
I would say scenes, but it would be, I like the stuff with Deep Throat, of course, with Hal, Holbrook. And
also
in the documentary,
has a great voice, by the way. Also,
he does.
I love his voice.
Yeah. And a lot of people, of course, would know him. Horror fans would know him from The Fog, John Carpenter's Fog, not the awful remake. But I like his stuff because I've always been fascinated with Deep Throat. And even the documentary that I watched afterwards said that, Mike Felt was the guy who actually is Deep Throat, that he came forward. And so I like those scenes, I think, the best. I do like the manipulation scenes with with Bernstein and, Woodrow, that with the people that they're trying to interview.
Right.
Yeah, I like those.
Also, like it so it sort of became a when they would call them into the office, they would use both their names. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I thought they were calling like one of them, and they just accidentally called them like Woodstein or something. But like that's like what they did is like later they'll be like, Woodstein, get in here. So both of them would come in, and I was like, wait, is this the beginning of what is it, Jennifer? Or Benifer.
Oh, like Benifer, yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of funny. But no, my favorite scene, honestly, is the scene where Dustin Hoffman is calling John Mitchell, and he's telling him, everything he's about to put in the paper, and he just wants to, let him know this is what's going on in the paper.
Well, this is that manipulation that they know if Jonathan, I know a lot about you, man, and I'm about to go onto Facebook and tell everybody, what do I'm going to read you what I have. Let me know, if this is correct. It's a good way to manipulate,
Uh-huh. And so the guy's like, Jesus, don't you print that? And he said all these like nasty things. He said something about, some tearing off some chick's tit. And then the guy's like, they're like, let's put everything except the tit part.
It's a family paper.
It's a family paper. That was a great line. Like, so much. Jason Robards in that, just like, most of the time it's just like the whole time because at first, when he first comes in, he doesn't want Robert Redford in it, because he doesn't have, he's new, like
yeah, they said 9 months. And then he does make a comment that Jack Warren was going to be firing Bernstein. He's like, but I thought you were going to fire him. So you got the guy who's possibly going to get fired teamed up with the guy that's only been there for 9 months.
Yeah. So there you go. So it was so strange. It was Woodward was about to be fired, or no, Woodward just came in and Bernstein was about to be fired. And it's just like, but they teamed up and because from what I've understood, what I remember hearing, Bernstein had been there for like 16 years in the paper, and everything. And I guess he was, not reliable to finish the stuff, because the one guy in the beginning was like, you can't start another thing before you finish the last, assignment. He was like,
I did finish it. Well, it needs polishing. It needs polishing. I'll bring it back.
He kept saying that a lot. I'm polishing this. I'm polishing that, and I just thought that was kind of cute,
Well, that's why I think, maybe in real life, that they were like the yin and yang of each other. So, while, Bernstein was the one to hop on the plane and fly somewhere to get that interview, Woodward was the guy to, I'm sorry, I'm going to reverse that. Like, Woodward was the guy to go out and get the interview, while Bernstein was the guy to polish it.
Right.
Because we see that he polishes. So that's what I'm saying, like a yin and the yang is one of them was really good at one thing. The other guy was really good at the other. I don't know how truthful that is in real life, but in the film it worked,
right.
Because they knew where their weaknesses and their strengths were, and of course they wrote this best-selling book and Nixon resigned. And so obviously they're good at something, they're good at what they do.
Yeah, no, they're perfect for working together. Like, yeah, you're right, like yin and yang, because at one point, like I in one of my favorite, also another small, there's so many favorite scenes in this movie, but one of my other favorite scenes is him coming up, Redford coming up and looking over what Dustin Hoffman did, and he says, he was like, this is good, like this is better than mine, this is better what I wrote, you know what I mean? So right. I love that, like that. Yeah, they worked well together. And so in the beginning of the movie, and what I loved in a way was in the beginning of the movie, they're in separate like cubicles all the way down from each other. They have to walk. You see them walk from one place to the other, which once again, probably not something you see a lot these days, they have to be cut. But now it's just like long tracking shots of them walking and to each other's desks. And then at the end of the movie, they're like right next to each other doing it. It's like they become, Woodward and Bernstein, together.
Right. Well, and where the movie ended, where we got the little kind of caption at the end saying, "Oh, Nixon resigned," and these people, it looks like, as I'm looking on IMDb for Bob Woodward, and it looks like he did write a book that took place after all the president's been, called The Final Days, and it's about the final days of Nixon in office. So I guess if if you want to read the book, you would just read both of those to kind of maybe get like a full, kind of explanation of everything that went on. But I forgot that he also wrote Wired, which is the movie about book and movie about John Belushi.
Oh, interesting. There was a movie about him.
Yeah, the guy who played the commish plays John Belushi, the guy who was the Thing in the Fantastic Four movies.
Oh, Michael something.
It's a horrible movie. Belushi's wife actually tried to sue him to stop the book coming out because he found out too much information that his widow did not want to know about. And so she actually hired him to write the book, and then went, "Oh my God, this is awful." And then hired somebody else to write a book that was a little more, made Belushi, a little better, than what Woodrow's book did. But the movie itself is pretty bad. I don't think the film ever made it even onto to DVD. Oh. I have a burn of it.
I just looked it up, and yeah, Michael Chiklis.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. It's funny that you mentioned him in The Thing as the thing, because that's what and everything. I'd check that out. I guess I would just like to see a movie based on the life of John Belushi, even if they got some things wrong. I'm fascinated by those documentaries on the National Lampoon stuff.
Oh yeah, those were some good. Yeah,
both of them, the movie and the documentary, just amazing.
Yeah, they're both good.
Yeah. But yeah, this movie, having been this was not a documentary, but had sort of a docu feel to it at times, where there were things that showed like the real stuff happening, real video of Nixon, the stuff that they're trying to make it feel as real as they could, and I dug that. Also, really, once again, I really dug Alan Pakula's style when a lot of the direction of, the shots and the different stuff they did with that, I just thought was pretty cool, So all in all, it was a good movie.
Yeah, he's I don't think a lot of people really know him by name. They've obviously seen his films. He hasn't directed in a while, but he did a great film with Harrison Ford called Presumed Innocent. And he also did stuff like The Devil's Own, The Pelican Brief, Consenting Adults, Sophie's Choice, Rollover, Starting Over, Comes a Horseman. I mean, he's done a ton of good Clute. He's done a ton of good movies. Just, I don't think a lot of people don't know his name. It's unfortunately very overlooked.
Sadly dead now, so we won't see another movie by him, But
1998 at the age of 70. So when was the last? So Devil's Own was his last. So he died. Oh wow, Devil's Own, the one with I think also Harrison Ford and Brad Pitt, 97.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I thought it was later than that for some reason.
So he died a year after that film was made.
He'd only done 16 movies.
But good director though.
Yeah. But yeah, Clute was the one that got him famous, got him awards and everything. Then he did The Parallax View, All the President's Men, Comes a Horseman, Starting Over, Rollover. That's kind of funny. Starting Over, then Rollover. Sophie's Choice, Presumed Innocent. The Pelican Brief. That's where I know the name from, really. Fucking John Grisham.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
But if you haven't seen Presumed Innocent, I highly recommend it.
I think I've heard of it. I just, it's so funny. When I was a kid, and a main reason I'm starting this show kind of thing is because when I was a kid, I really would watch a lot of the same movies over and over again, and I still sort of do that at times. Like I'll watch some of my favorite movies before I'd watch something new, And so I'm like, any chance to watch something new that I haven't seen that I know is a good movie like this, I'm gonna take it. This and Deer Hunter so far have gotten 5 stars. I will.
Deer Hunter is great. Deer Hunter is a great movie.
I will let you know. I'll let everyone know that the next movie, because I've already got an idea of what I'm picking. If it's what I pick, it's not going to get 5 stars because I already. Yeah, I'm picking something I'm not a fan of, but I want to rewatch it. And but who knows? Maybe we'll get 5 stars. I don't know. Rewatching something after a while of not seeing it might, whatever.
I've noticed that there's a fair amount of films now that I think when I was younger, I was probably influenced by the wrong people and didn't like them, and then gave them a second chance and went, wait a minute, I like this film,
Yeah. We'll talk about it personally, because I don't think I'm going to bring it up until I know for a fact that that's what I'm going to pick, because I've got a couple ideas. Yeah. So this one, once again, it was your choice based on my ideas of what I wanted to do. Right. So I already had ideas. Like I was thinking originally of Dr. Zhivago, and then I was like, let me let you pick.
Too long.
I know, but I have to watch it at some point just because it's like such a classic that everybody talks about it. That has to happen.
I saw it decades ago and I should probably rewatch it. And once again, I'll probably have a different opinion on it now. I'll probably really like it. But it was like, you hear about Lawrence of Arabia in film class and, history books and how great it is. And then they came out on VHS with that uncut 4-hour version of the movie. And I think I was just like, well, watching it, oh, fucking God, what is this going to end? And it's a great movie, but it's like, gee, 4 freaking hours.
I know. And I rewatched Lawrence of Arabia actually. And the only problem I have with it is, okay, it's beautifully shot, right? Like beautifully shot. David Lean is a master at shots, right? But then there's a lot of talking. So what it felt like to me is what's that movie? The Quentin Tarantino Hateful Eight, where there's some amazing shots in the film, but then most of the movie is like just 3 people talking in a carriage. And I'm like, you're going to waste like that fucking panoramic, whatever, on and scenery stuff on like being closed in on a, you know what I mean? And a lot of that happens in this movie. And so maybe Hateful Eight is very inspired by movies like Lawrence of Arabia, in a way, like sweeping epics. But it didn't, to me, it just didn't feel that way. Like it felt like if you're going to do a Hateful Eight movie, you shouldn't make it like into a play. You should make it into a like Guns of the Navarone or whatever, kind of thing feel. So, but this movie, All the President's Men, to go back to it did have that feel of like kind of a like the shots, like I keep talking about the tracking shots, like the dolly shots, inside the post office. I say post office, office of the post. It's not the post office, but the newsroom. And it was just amazing. Like them running to see each other, and they're like, Woodward, you start running to the person and you follow them. And I was just like, that's a really cool shot. Like it's simple. It's not, it's nothing that hasn't been done.
Well, yeah. When you have good actors and good writing and a good director and a good editor, you don't need to cut back and forth. Like there's the scene where Bernstein is running after Woodward's car because he has all that information. And then, Woodward stops off to the side. All you're doing is following the car, and you could see, Dustin Hoffman in the background running. But running. Today it would be car Hoffman a little closer, car Hoffman. And instead, no, it's this dude just attach the camera to the car, and then we'll just have him run to the car, get in, and then they'll drive off, and then we'll go back and forth between them because it's,
Actually, I think it would be even worse. It would be car Hoffman, cars at Hoffman's at car, cut, like that.
You think it'd be shorter?
It would be shorter today because I think we live in a world where people are so worried about everybody's attention span. Now, I say that, and yet I just watched Spider-Man No Way Home last month, and that was 2.5 hours long. And Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is supposed to be over 3 hours long. So obviously, they kind of hope like people will go to see these long ass movies, still. But I think really like there's always got to be something going on every 2 seconds for, they have to do that because the people's attention spans, like kids today would hate All the President's Men. It's not, it's not cut, MTV style, Pearl Harbor style,
Well, I think when I first saw it, I thought it was boring. I might have even turned it off. I mean, I probably rented it because of the actors, and then I'm like, what the fuck? This is boring as shit. Mm-hmm. And then I probably turned it off. And then it wasn't until much later that I really appreciated it,
Yeah.
Plus, I wasn't political at that time either. Now I am. So to me, it's fascinating.
Which is funny because that was the thing that you said to me was you're not very political. So I'm surprised you picked this movie up there. And I'm not. No, I'm apolitical. I hate politics. I fucking hate them. I hate politics. I like history, Like I appreciate history. If I can learn something from a movie, about what has happened in the past, I want to, because I don't want to feel left out of conversations of this shit, So you sent me that documentary about Watergate. I did not get a chance to watch it. Just been I got done with watching this and I had to go take a shower and get ready. You know what I mean? Like it's been busy. However, I do plan to watch
shit shaving shower.
Pretty much. And the thing is, I was very excited when you sent me that because it's National Geographic. They always have really good fucking stories. But also because it's, history, and I like to learn that shit if I get a chance to, but only if because one day I may put in my Echo Lake universe stuff, I may put some political stuff going on, and if I'm aware of Watergate, I can mention something like that, Well,
and superhero films are very political.
They are.
When you look at it, the stuff like X-Men of killing X-Men because they're different. The whole thing of Iron Man on one side and Captain America on the other side, that's very political.
Civil War was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of this stuff is all political,
Well, I mean, and that was political in the sense of Iron Man was, pro-government trying to control what, right? Whatever. He was into just letting the government do what they were going to do. Captain America was very anti, he wants freedom and he's fighting for whatever, right? And I was weirdly on Iron Man's side. I mean, and I feel like you would have been on Captain America's side, maybe a little bit.
Surprisingly, no. I would probably be more in that's when you're watching, I forget what films it was, but where there were consequences to their actions and buildings fell on people and people died, and I think that's when the whole government thing was brought up with controlling them. I was more on I think, Iron Man's side, because you can't just go around destroying shit.
Right.
You have to have some sort of control over it. It's they're not Superman. It's where at the end of course, one's DC and one's Marvel, but at the end of Man of Steel, where he shoots down the drone and he's like, you're not going to control me. I'm not going to be an asshole, but you're not going to control me.
Right.
To me, that's something else. But when you're going around from country to country, destroying cities and innocent lives are being killed, then you do need some sort of control or regulation or something.
Exactly. And I sort of agree with you on that too. That was my big thing is going around, because it was the I know we're talking Marvel here or whatever, but bear with me. The whole a Battle of New York was what caused it. There was I think maybe it was first Avengers, the first Avengers movie Then the second Avengers movie, they destroyed like a whole bunch of other, and the government was getting pissed and was like, hey, you can't just keep destroying shit. We have to, we have to first be alerted, then we'll alert you guys. And I felt like that was a fair, plan, like
Sure.
and stuff. So anyway, the point being that, and we'll probably discuss this on my Marvel show that's coming out very soon. Those things like that, because I love talking about that shit. But maybe I'll have you on my Civil War talk. This is very political.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Chat about that.
Yeah, I find that stuff to be interesting because that's, to go back just for a second, just with like DC, that's why, of course, Bruce Wayne hated Superman so much, because he was destroying the whole friggin' city, and people were dying. So but in the case of All the President's Men, there were reporters doing research on the phone. So, nobody died there.
Nobody died there. But then again, some of the research and some of the stuff, I mean, they could not get anybody to come forward, right? That was the whole big part of the movie, was like, could not get anybody at all to like come forward and actually say on the record that this person did this and this,
no one wanted to die.
Right. But, that goes back to right now is, there's the whole Ghislaine Maxwell situation. And she is, by the time this is out, it's going to be my birthday, by the way. I'll be 40.
When this comes happy out. Birthday.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing, is like, when this comes out, who knows what's going to happen with Ghislaine Maxwell, because already she's on suicide watch, or whatever and shit like that, because people have this theory that she's going to try to kill herself because she knows too much information, and stuff.
She either they're just going to let her rot in prison, or she will hang herself, and or slip and fall a few times on a, on a shiv, in the women's restroom or something like that. It will. And they're not going to let it. She's such a scumbag. Nobody will care.
Right, but that's the scary thing, is like she has information that can whatever, that can be out there, but it doesn't even matter, I guess, because like she's probably never going to turn on everybody. Whoa, did I? My thing said my internet was unstable. Did I mess up at all, or?
Just for a few seconds.
Okay. So yeah. So anyway,
I got everything you were talking about. So
yeah. So anyway, it's one of those things where this stuff is still happening today. Bad shit goes to bad shit goes to bad shit, and people are trying to bring down the people who are doing. And honestly, it's stupid. Like, all the stuff should not have, the wiretap should not have happened. All of this stuff, like it, I don't know whether or not it was needed. It just should not have happened to begin with, and got Nixon fired. He would not resign too. It said.
Well, I mean, not to say that this stuff didn't happen before Nixon, but a lot of this stuff did happen because of Nixon. And that's why Trump has been compared to Nixon many, many times. And because Nixon felt that he could do anything he wanted because he's president. And that's not true. We all have laws, so it's good that these guys went out and did, the research that they did, and that they stuck with it, and people were behind it, because then Nick would have never resigned. He would have gotten away with everything.
It's funny. I was watching the trailer to Nixon, the starring Anthony Hopkins, as Nixon and everything. And I was laughing my ass off, because there's a line in it where one of the guys is like, did you do this? Did you do that? Or you're right. And at one point it goes, he said something about the bombing of like a country or whatever. And he goes, I'm the president of the United States. I can bomb whoever the hell I want to bomb,
Yeah.
And
probably like Laos or Cambodia or something like that.
I think it was Cambodia. And so it made me laugh because I was just like thinking, wow, that's sort of like that's a president for you, like who else would say? Biden might not say that, but Trump probably would. He'd be like, can bomb wherever the fuck I want to bomb.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a film called Frost Nixon that takes place after, Nixon resigns, and it's basically the film is one long interview. It's based on a true story, and Frank Langella plays Nixon, and Michael Sheen plays David Frost, and that's where a lot of this information came from about how Nixon feels about being president, is because he just he had nothing to lose, so he just came out in this interview and just saying, I'm president, I could do whatever I want, I could do whatever, you have to do what I say, it is more like a dictatorship, and that's how he truly felt. So it's really scary about what these guys think, and people elect them, the same thing with like Trump and stuff.
Yeah. And I don't really want to get too political in that aspect, because I don't want them thinking that like Indie Film Cafe itself has any political views, like our entity, me personally, I don't, Paul does, and that's all him, and he can say whatever he wants. I just don't want people thinking one thing or the other, about our, whatever. Like, I don't.
Oh no, and that's fine. It's just this film just happens to mirror what's going on right now.
And I agree.
And Trump has been compared to Nixon, so I think it's kind of relevant.
And I honestly, after like seeing this movie and seeing sort of or hearing more about it, I kind of agree with this, with Nixon and Trump being very similar to each other. So I mean, obviously different. I don't think Nixon would ever say that he would grab a girl's pussy or something, but
no, but there are those Nixon tapes that he stupidly recorded and people got a hold of, and in that he is quite racist. I mean, he does call Kissinger his Jew boy. And he does not like black people. He speaks poorly of women, and so it's a check out that documentary. It's for people who are interested. It's on YouTube. It's called Final Report. It's Watergate by National Geographic, and
yep, that was the one.
It starts a little before the film that we watched. So it starts a little bit earlier, but it goes way beyond All the President's Men, and so the Bernstein and Woodward are parts of the documentary, but they're not huge parts. It mostly takes place in what was going on with Nixon during that time. So it's an interesting look that you could watch All the President's Men and see it from the reporter's point of view, and then you watch this documentary, and it's kind of like all from Nixon's point of view in a way.
I think it was interesting that they said like some of the stuff that they were trying to put out, they would not allow to be put out before, like they had to, basically Nixon wanted to have his, voting, and then he was like, I forgot how many people. It's like, I want to say it said 1,000 or something, 1,000 something, but it's had to be way more than that. But something to like one, the count was to like one, the guy got one vote.
Oh yeah. The person, the Republican that was running against Nixon
for the second term.
So he got got like 1%, while Nixon got like 99%. So
yeah, it was insane. It was just like, holy shit. And then they were all happy, like 4 more years.
Then we got Ford after that, and then Jimmy Carter. So
yeah, well, how long? So anyway, that's another time. I'm gonna have to start looking up more shit on this stuff, because I mean, I'm just not I'm not political, so I don't really dive into that stuff. But once again, it is part of my like American history, and as
I don't think you need to necessarily be political. Like, I don't like sports. I never watch sports, but I love movies about sports.
Right.
I'll go see anything that deals. I don't care what sport it is. Documentaries. I watched the entire baseball documentary, by Ken Burns.
Oh God!
And I'm not even into sports. I just don't care about sports, but I love learning about it. So you don't have to be political to love movies about history.
Yeah, I love the whole stuff on the Black Sox, and I hate sports too. Like I don't hate sports, but I'm not like one person who watches football. Like I don't watch football, not my thing. But I know a lot of people do. I know like Paul loves baseball, I think. He talks about that a lot, and that's fantastic. That's just not me. I'm not into it. I'm into movies. I've always been into movies since I was like a kid, so but when I was living in LA, I actually got into a lot of like some sports stuff, but anyway.
I mean, going to see sports with a group of people is fine. I used to go see baseball out here with a group of people, and I don't hate sports. I'm just not into it. But if I'm invited to it, I'll go. Sure.
Yeah.
But history is the one thing that they're trying to eliminate. I mean, eliminate in some sort of ways. And so it's interesting, it's good to watch, all the president's men, or even Nixon, or the film about, George W. Bush, to just even to learn something, right, to know something of our past. Why did Oliver Stone make W? It was to keep W out of the White House. So that's why he made the movie, was that he hoped that people would see how inept he is, and then they wouldn't vote for him. So it's all it's all interesting.
Yeah. I love Stone.
It's about wars, is Apocalypse Now, Deer Hunter,
Yeah. So there you go. Well, anyway, I think this about wraps it up. Is there anything that we didn't talk about, that we didn't mention, that you wanted to make sure we mentioned?
I just think it's a film that people should see. See the movie, watch some documentaries, read the book, that the film is based on. Read William Goldman. I mean, the guy did write Lord of the Flies. He also wrote the script for, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Mm-hmm. So apparently Redford liked him. And just do your research. Go watch Presumed Innocent. Everybody who worked on this film is awesome. There's nothing bad about them at all. Go on IMDb and just click on some of the actors' names, and you'll see what good movies they've made.
Oh yeah. Geez, the cast is huge. So, and amazing. Yeah. So, really great to see a lot of these actors out there doing, what they love to do. All right. Well, thank you so much, John. If you stay on, I'll keep you on for a second, chat with you. But everybody else, thank you guys so much for checking this out. Join me next week for a brand new episode. All right. Bye.
Bye.